The story begins with a father who did the unthinkable. He traded his own daughter for 3 sacks of potatoes. Emily thought she was walking into another nightmare, a life of pain, captivity, and despair. But when the stranger led her to his mansion, the shocking truth came out. He wasn't who she thought he was, and her life was about to change forever. The summer air in rural Kentucky was thick and heavy, carrying the smell of dust, corn husks, and poverty. Emily Parker sat quietly on the porch steps of her father's crumbling farmhouse, her eyes tracing the chipped paint along the railing. She was 18 now, but her childhood had been long gone. Hunger and hardship had carved years into her face long before her time. Her stomach growled quietly, but she ignored it. Hunger was no stranger here. Her father, John Parker, staggered out of the house behind her. Once a strong man, years of debt and disappointment had ground him down into someone bitter, hollow, and desperate. His work at the lumber mill had ended when the factory shut down, and every job since had slipped through his fingers. Now, with nothing left but unpaid bills stacked high on the kitchen table, he had begun to measure his daughter's worth in terms of survival. "You're sittin' out here like you've got all the time in the world," he muttered, pulling a cigarette from his pocket. His hands shook slightly as he lit it. Emily didn't reply. She had learned that words rarely softened him. Evening. A stranger drove up the long dirt road leading to their home. His truck was old but polished, gleaming in the fading sunlight. He stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a dark jacket despite the heat. His eyes carried the kind of confidence you only see in men who never worry about where their next meal is coming from. Natron straightened as the man approached. "You Parker?" the stranger asked in a deep voice. "Not Shrayton, that's me," John said quickly, his cigarette dangling from his lips. Man looked at Emily for a long, uncomfortable moment. She shifted in her seat, feeling his gaze like a weight pressing against her chest. Finally, the man turned back to John. "I hear you're in need. I might have something for you." Emily frowned. Something in the air felt wrong. She caught her father's eyes, but he looked away. Deal was struck inside the house, behind closed doors. But Emily overheard every word through the cracked window. The stranger offered 3 large sacks of potatoes, fresh, clean, enough food to last weeks, and in exchange, John would hand Emily over. Her heart dropped into her stomach. She pressed her hand against the window frame, her fingers trembling. Surely her father wouldn't. Surely even in his lowest moments, he wouldn't trade away his own daughter. Then she heard him say the words that broke her soul in two logican. "Fine, take her. She's yours." Emily's vision blurred with tears. She stumbled back from the window, her breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. She wanted to scream, to fight, but when John came out and barked her name, she froze. The stranger's hand closed gently but firmly around her arm. "Nan. Come on," he said. His voice was steady, almost calm, but she didn't trust it. Now as she climbed into his truck, Emily looked back at her father one last time. He didn't meet her eyes. Instead, he lit another cigarette, his face hidden in a cloud of smoke. She realized then that she wasn't his daughter anymore. She was nothing more than a trade he had made to keep his belly full. The truck rumbled down the dirt road, leaving behind the only home she had ever known. Emily pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window, her thoughts spiraling. Was this man her captor now? Was she being taken into a new prison, far from anyone who might help her? And after nearly an hour, the truck turned onto a paved driveway that seemed to stretch for miles. At the end of it stood a sprawling mansion, its lights glowing like something out of a dream. Emily's mouth fell open. She had never seen a house so large, so impossibly perfect. The stranger parked the truck and opened her door. "Come inside," he said simply. Emily hesitated, fear clawing at her chest. But curiosity tugged at her as well. What kind of man traded sacks of potatoes for a girl, only to bring her to a palace? An mansion was warm, filled with soft light and the faint smell of roses. Servants moved quietly through the halls, bowing their heads to the man who brought her in. He led her to a room bigger than her entire farmhouse, with a bed that looked softer than clouds. "You'll stay here tonight," he told her. "You're safe now." NSAFE. The word sounded hollow. Emily crossed her arms, glaring at him. "Why did you do it?" Why did you buy me like cattle? NTHE man's expression softened, but he didn't answer immediately. Finally he said, because I needed to know. Know what? She demanded, whether your father would value you more than his own hunger. Whether a man would see his daughter as priceless, or as a bargaining chip. His jaw tightened. Now I have my answer. Emily stared at him, her chest heaving. None of it made sense. You're rich. You could have helped him. You could have given us food without revealing his true nature, the man interrupted. His voice was sharp, but not cruel. I've seen this too many times. Money changes people. I wanted to see who your father really was when he thought no one was watching. NSHE sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands twisting in her lap. So what happens to me now? NTHE man looked at her carefully. That depends on you. You're free to leave if you want. But if you stay, I'll make sure you never go hungry again. You'll have an education, opportunities, a future. Something your father never intended for you. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She thought of the farmhouse, of the nights spent shivering under thin blankets, of her father's cold indifference. For the first time in her life, she was being offered more than just survival. She was being offered a chance to live. NNBUT trust did not come easily. For days, Emily moved cautiously through the mansion, always watching, waiting for the trap to reveal itself. Yet the man never raised his voice, never demanded anything of her. Instead, he encouraged her to read, to explore the vast library, to try painting, music, whatever she wished. Slowly, the walls she had built around her heart began to crumble. One night, as they sat by the fireplace, Emily finally asked the question that had haunted her since the beginning. Who are you really? NTHE man leaned back in his chair, the firelight flickering across his face. My name is Alexander Reed. Most people know me as the CEO of Reed Industries. Some call me a billionaire. But to you, I hope I can be something more. A mentor, a protector, maybe even family. Minshivan Noah's Kuta. The word cut deep. She had lost hers in the cruelest way imaginable. Could she really find it again in this stranger? Minshivan Noah's Kuta. Minshivan Noah's Kuta. Minshiruta. Minshivan Noah's Kuta. She studied hard, discovering talents she never knew she had. She laughed again, something she hadn't done in years. And slowly she realized the truth. Alexander hadn't stolen her life. He had given it back to her. One day she stood at the gates of the mansion, looking out at the road that led back to her old farmhouse. She could have gone back, confronted her father, demanded answers. But she didn't. She knew now that some doors were better left closed. Instead, she turned back toward the mansion, the place that had once seemed like a prison but had become her salvation. NNFOR the first time in her life, Emily Parker wasn't afraid of the future. NNSHE was ready for it. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss the next story.